Governor Whitmer, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be with you.
So let me just first ask you, because a lot of the commentary around this State of the Union has been how unusual it has been and how theatrical, but how incredibly it played to Donald Trump's strength, the showmanship, all the things that he does, frankly, very, very well.
Well, it was 90 minutes of theater. It was complete fiction. But, he is the master of a reality show. The sad truth, though, is that this is our reality. And that's really what I was trying to convey in my response to, to write a response to, in the best of circumstances, with someone who is rational and predictable is difficult enough. But with this president in this environment, in the midst of an impeachment trial, it was a challenge. I wasn't particularly surprised by what he did, but you're right. There was a lot of showmanship. That's something he's always brought to the table.
Okay, so I am really interested to hear you talk and admit this challenge in as a Democratic governor, as the Democratic Party, frankly, not quite knowing how to challenge and respond in a way that kind of resonates. So we've heard that the president obviously used his opening arguments when everybody probably was tuned in to talk about, the great American comeback, the booming economy, the rock bottom unemployment, etc. You then responded by saying, when the president says the economy is strong, my question is strong for whom? Strong for the wealthy? Who are reaping the rewards from tax cuts they don't need? The American economy needs to be different kind of strong. So, okay, that's you fact-checking the president. But is it working and will it work? His, just before the State of the Union, his popularity was up at record 49% for him. That's the highest for him.
So, part of what I was communicating is our economy isn't just supposed to be strong for the wealthy. I mean, that's who Donald Trump has protected and been fighting for. It needs to be strong for, the single mom who is taking on extra hours to pay for her daughter's soccer cleats. It needs to be strong for the teacher that is paying money out of her own pocket to bring supplies into school, and strong for the small business owner who's trying to make payroll. And frankly, strong for the farmer and auto worker who are in a state of anxiety every time a tweet comes out of the White House. We need to be focused on the fundamentals for the American public, ensuring that everyone has a real path into a good life, whether it's through a union apprenticeship or a community college certificate or a 4-year degree, without taking on a lifetime of debt. This economy, I knew he would boast about the economy and the Dow, but the fact of the matter is, when you are working 2 jobs and still can't meet your monthly expenses at the end of the month, what's happening on Wall Street has no impact on your ability to take care of your family and get ahead. And that's really what I was speaking to. It was 90 minutes of fiction when he talks about ensuring that we are an inclusive country. This is someone who takes to Twitter to run down his fellow Americans. This is someone who has erected walls and caged children. And I think that, we really need truth. We need to have action, and people should judge their leaders, not by what they say, but by what they do.
Governor, it's interesting you just brought up the inclusive, because he did use that phrase several times. And it's, again, not an accident. It's a very well-crafted speech to his base. And as many of you have commented, it's like a re-election pep rally. And he is obviously trying to appeal to the African Americans, the Hispanic Latino community, and all those. And he goes on and on about how he's raised their living standards, their wages, and etc. Given that that's going to be a really necessary demographic for the Democrats to win in 2020, how do you actually confront that? How do you actually put the Democrat point of view across?
Well, with the truth. With the truth. Any successes that we've had in closing some of those gaps were foundation that was laid by President Obama. This president has worked to undermine a lot of the work of the previous administration. I mean, he's been in office for 3 years, and he attacked Barack Obama numerous times in that 90-minute speech. This is really, I think, a fundamental truth that people in this country are dealing with, the anxiety of, are my kids going to have a better life than I am? Are they going to get the education that they need? Is the water that's coming out of their tap clean and safe for them? Are they going to have a path into a skill that gets them into a good job? Every parent, expects our government to work as hard as we do, but also expects and hopes that our kids have a higher quality of life than we do. And right now, as a result, the last 3 years, that's really very much in question. Whether it's our moral standing in the world and geopolitical ways, or it is here at home when it comes to infrastructure that is crumbling and not supporting our American economy. These are the failings of this administration that our kids will be paying for, that everyone in this country is paying a price for now. And so this, I think, is the important message that Democrats need to be taking to the people. We have an agenda that ensures that everyone has access to affordable, quality health care.
Famously, in your campaign, you said, I think I'm gonna probably get it wrong, but fix the darn highways. I mean, that was one of your action campaign slogans. Infrastructure is something that's clearly really difficult. The president did promise it; it hasn't happened. I just wonder whether you think it will happen, because it requires, I think, elected officials to actually raise taxes and sort of, get money into the coffers to do that. And of course, last night, nobody mentioned the massive ballooning deficit. I think it's kind of at record highs right now. Neither President Trump nor you in your rebuttal.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you raising that point. I mean, as I think about the kids of our country, the deficit is something I am worried about as well. Climate change, there are so many pieces that I would have included in my 10-minute rebuttal to a 90-minute, work of fiction. But the fact of the matter is I wanted to stay focused on the core fundamentals that people are worried about in our country. This presidency, I think, has done nothing on infrastructure. They've talked a lot about it, but they haven't done anything. And that's why you see Democratic and Republican governors across the country trying to fix our infrastructure crisis, because we've had no help from Washington, D.C. I highlighted J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, who is moving forward. I highlighted Phil Murphy in New Jersey, who's cleaning up water and replacing lead pipes. These are the things that people in our country demand. I did run on a slogan. It was actually fixing the damn roads. And I talked about it that way because that's how people in Michigan talk to me about the frustration they have when they have to replace tires or have cracked windshields. It steals money from rent or from groceries or childcare. This is a fundamental that is hurting Americans across the country. When we invest in infrastructure, everyone benefits.
So very quickly, I want to ask you, you are governor of a very important swing state. We all know the story of Michigan in 2016 that went for President Trump, Wisconsin as well. It was quite, knife edge, and nonetheless it did. So what do Democrats have to do to avoid that happening again in 2020?
Well, first and foremost, I think my friend Tony Evers, the governor of Wisconsin, would tell you that it's focusing on these dinner table issues. It's the fundamentals. If you are working 2 jobs and can't keep your head above water taking care of your family, you don't have energy to think about all the other stuff that is going on in this country or to fact check the president. You want to know that your leaders are going to deliver. And that's why I highlighted what Democratic governors are doing across our country. We should be judged by our actions, not by the narrative. And so I think that that's really something that's very important. As I look to 2020 election, I know that the lesson that I took away from 2018 is it is so crucial that we stay tethered to the things that matter to the voters. I went to all 83 counties in the state of Michigan, and this is a big state, 2 peninsulas, and it's a massive amount of territory to cover. But I did that because everyone's important. And when you show up and listen to people, you know what matters to voters. And I think that's what's so important, and that's the advice that I'm giving to everyone who's running. This blue-collar boom, or whatever the president called it, it's not substantive. It's not real. People are worried. A tweet out of the White House can, send aluminum and steel prices soaring, or can drop the value of our soybeans. So farmers and auto workers alike have anxiety because this president is so careless with how he focuses on issues. That's part of the message, too.
So let me ask you about the issue that clearly worked in 2018 midterms, and I think that you're hoping that you can harness that for the 2020, and it's a legitimate issue for the majority of people in the country, and that's healthcare. As you know, the president has made a lot of hay over, the technical failures and the sort of chaos in the Iowa caucus, first in the nation contest for the Democratic race. And he's also using, no matter what happens, this idea of socialist Democrats as a campaign slogan against his opponents. And he used that last night in terms of healthcare. Just listen to what he said about that.
132 lawmakers in this room have endorsed legislation to impose a socialist takeover of our healthcare system, wiping out the private health insurance plans of 180 million very happy Americans. To those watching at home tonight, I want you to know we will never let socialism destroy American health care.
What does it mean for the president's ability to paint the Democrats as socialists who want to take away, 180 million happy Americans' health care?
Well, that is absolutely ridiculous that the president went on television last night and said that he is the one fighting for health care. From day one in this administration, they have filed lawsuit after lawsuit to rip away protections from the Affordable Care Act, to take away protections for people with pre-existing conditions. The fact of the matter is that every Democrat running for president has embraced increasing access to quality, affordable health care. Every single one of them. Lawsuit after lawsuit by this president and Republicans in Washington, D.C. has been waged to take away health care from Americans in this country. It's pretty simple. Democrats are fighting for better health care. Republicans are trying to take it away.
So I want to ask you a little bit about the optics and the tone and what you're going to have to do as a party to regroup if you're going to successfully contest 2020. What we've had is the president, as we speak, is going to be acquitted by the Senate. We've had an impeachment that went several months of people's time and energy and focus. Before that, we had a year or more of the Russia investigation. No matter what the actual facts are, the fact is that the president came out unscathed, and he is able to portray that for his own political advantage, and he survives. I just want to read you, because I want you to answer this, what one of the comments has been about your speech and your rebuttal last night. Essentially, according to the co-founder of Vox news site, the Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer probably made a smart choice by trying to give an earnest policy speech in her response to the State of the Union, rather than one addressing the president's crimes or the blood-soaked demagoguery of the anti-immigrant rhetoric in Trump's speech on Tuesday night. The problem is that it was also a boring speech. Now, I'm sorry to say that, not my words, but many people are concerned and worried, many Democrats are worried, that the Democrats are playing by the rules in the face of a president who is very skillfully playing a totally insurgent campaign, an insurgent presidency, and by their own account, a totally non-traditional disruptive game.
Well, I guess I would rather be called smart, but a little bit boring, than really interesting and downright dangerous. And I think that's the difference here. I do acknowledge that Democrats need to work hard to earn the support of Americans. There's no question about that. And you know what? American people deserve leaders who are going to work hard and going to stay focused on the things that really matter. But in this day and age of this destructive kind of rhetoric coming out of the White House, I'm going to stay focused, and I think my fellow Democrats should as well. What does the future of our country look like? And when I think about that, I think about my kids and children all across this country who need leaders that are going to preserve our moral standing in the world, who aren't going to leave them with debt that they'll never recover from, that will ensure they've got a real path to a good life here and clean water, that they have autonomy over their bodies. These, I think, are the issues that are so crucial to Americans, and we're going to continue to press forward, and I'm going to encourage my fellow Democrats to stay tethered to those issues. Certainly, if there's they want to expand our base They need to actually talk to the American people and not play Trump's game.
And finally, just the horse race, Governor. What do you make of the centrist, more moderate, more establishment candidate in your party coming, as far as we know, fairly poorly, about fourth in the Iowa caucus, and the young mayor of South Bend looking like he's very far at the top, and if he's not, it's Bernie Sanders. So the progressive and the moderate wing are vying for the top, but the establishment candidate is not doing as well.
Well, I think at the end of the day, no matter how this shakes out, that the party is going to unify around our candidate. There's no question that any one of the candidates running on the Democratic ticket would be a vast improvement on, Donald Trump. And so I believe that we will coalesce. I ran, I am a very progressive Democrat, but I was, ran in a primary where people questioned whether or not that was true. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, what unites us is a heck of a lot stronger than what divides us. And I believe that we are making strides, but we're one state down, and maybe not, we're actually one state behind us. There's 49 more to go. There's a lot of work ahead, and no one should take any particular state, especially Michigan, for granted in this race.
Governor Whitmer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.